The process of turning into a compulsive gambler and gambler's recovery. Habits developed by a compulsive gambler. A compulsive gambler acquires a tendency to lie due to a lack of integrity, which is a virtue. They constantly lie throughout the 4 different phases of gambling addiction, as indicated in the text. Since a gambler is deluded by the knowledge that he has been losing as he progresses through the stages and tends to be consumed by gaming, vulnerability can also be understood as an unconscious act of the gambler. They are unable to stop because they cannot accept the circumstances. Gambler tends to deceive others and themselves because lying to oneself and refusing to acknowledge the truth is a deplorable act. Additionally, consuming alcohol, engaging in material gratification, smoking, using drugs, and sex trafficking are all activities that might be linked to gambling addiction. Aristotle's description of the process of turning into a compulsive gambler. Becoming a gambling addict is a continuous process of deception, theft, and dishonesty. Every one of these vices contributes to gambling disorder, and if we link the 4 components of the Arizona Council, one can argue that it is in line with Aristotle's thought. Being a gambling addict is not just a one-time deed but rather the result of a series of behaviors, in this scenario, vices. To be termed or to have the disorder, a compulsive gambler has to go through each of the stages of becoming a compulsive gambler. Gambling can be considered beneficial as long as a person can control their want to gamble and is merely doing it for enjoyment. The insatiable need to keep gambling despite the negative effects is defined as compulsive gambling, often known as gambling disorder. Gambling is regarded as placing something valuable on the line in the hopes of securing something far more valuable. So, one can certainly assert that gambling is not dangerous if one is gambling for leisure and does not feel it necessary to go further to win and to stake everything. Issues raised by internet gambling. According to Aristotle, as presented by Burnor and Raley, vices can only exist because there are no virtuous actions, which could be a shortage or an overabundance. If a person is already addicted to gambling, he or she can become a compulsive gambler. Internet gambling is very popular these days, and it poses certain issues regarding data protection. When a gambler engages in online gambling, he or she authorizes the program to obtain information already recorded on their computer or phone. Because these online gambling websites or applications can't be traced or are not operating lawfully, they are likely engaging in something unlawful. It will now jeopardize the data that a user has, such as their identity, bank account details, location, and other sensitive data. They could then utilize the data to perform something the consumer doesn't want them to. Their identities could be exploited in criminal operations in which they are involved. They could even utilize their bank account details or extort them to get something more valuable. There are a few aspects of internet gambling that raise the risk of developing or aggravating a gambling addiction, which include simple entry and ongoing access, enabling users to play for extended periods uninterrupted. The potential to play independently. Use of Visa and innovative payment plans that make paying in cash simple. Exceptionally intelligent and imaginative circumstances may cause gamers to lose sight of money and energy. A virtuous person and making use of internet gambling sites. According to studies, a good person uses internet gambling websites since compulsive gamblers usually progress from occasional to routine gaming. As these phases progress, the gambler will become increasingly dangerous, resulting in serious personal troubles, financial devastation, and possibly criminal behavior. Furthermore, this is not a case of several correct options, as a compulsive gambler is someone unable to control their motivations. It can have drastic consequences, and the need to gamble ends up being completely unbelievable, to the point where pressure must be relieved to an ever-increasing amount through gambling. Individuals are usually unaware or attempt to claim ignorance that they have a problem. The first step toward managing to gamble is admitting that there is a problem. For some people, mindfulness arises only when they are at their lowest point. Hopes for a gambler's recovery are slim. It implies that when someone is firmly hooked on gambling, it is difficult to get them to stop. Others promise to cease but are unable to do so, and they are afraid that their family and friends might find out. It pushes them even further into getting stranded and into more debt. They continue believing that a huge accomplishment will put an end to their worries. The first step for people who have gambling problems is to let go of their losses and their expectations of a big win. They could therefore begin to regain control of their lives and gambling activities at that moment. In the context of Aristotle's theory, it also is true that it would be difficult for those who are addicted to gambling to stop, since individuals are rarely great or morally corrupt. Repeated exposure makes them that way, and as a result, Aristotle does not establish the breach and affliction models of behavior that dominate today's discourse on addiction. Requesting that each of these frameworks be able to reflect each type of pointless reliance is far more akin to embracing an ideology than explaining the reason for actual human behavior. Whereas current records are unpolished, Aristotle's is unobtrusive. Aristotle's argument on the harmfulness of online gambling. Gambling is destructive, since the National Council on Gambling Problems maintains that a gambling problem is a versatile subjugation characterized by increasing diversion with gambling. It would also be characterized by the need to wager more money more frequently, anxiety or dismissiveness when attempting to quit, chasing plights, and impairment characterized by continued betting behavior despite growing, authentic, and negative outcomes. Aiming to identify gambling is undoubtedly difficult and can take a great deal of investigation and analysis. It would also involve discussions with advisors to recognize that an individual's betting, or even someone they know, is the result of a preoccupation, close to how people become addicted to prescription drugs and alcohol. In respect of Aristotle's argument, it is undeniable that addiction is not culpable to Aristotle, as it is an obligatory condition. He regards it in the same way that he would illness or harm to the structure. These existing factors can contribute to behaviors that would be considered indecent in an average person. Aristotle's pathology is similar to this one in that he sees no distinction between psychosocial problems. In his opinion, the soul is just a form of a host organism, not any metaphysically distinctive thing. Moreover, there are no evils, ghosts, or even other supernatural forces that have a causal influence on human practices.